Right now, as you read these lines, you feel your fingertips gliding across the screen's smooth surface, or your palm grasping the device's body. That coolness under your fingers, that hardness, that certainty, that slick resistance of the screen's glass, perhaps the faint warmth emanating from the device's processor, or the momentary vibration of an incoming notification. All of this feels direct, indisputable, and utterly real to you, so much so that you don't even feel the need to reflect on this sensation. Because touch is the cornerstone of your understanding of the world, from the moment you were born. A baby first gets to know the world through its mouth and hands. What is real is what can be touched. For centuries, philosophers have questioned existence and debated the nature of reality. But for all of us, the most indisputable reality is what we can touch, or so we thought. But now, let's open a door to a truth that will shake your mind's most ingrained habits, gently setting aside your common sense. In truth, you're not touching anything. Yes, you heard that right. Not the phone you're holding right now, not the chair you're sitting on, not the ground you're walking on, nor any person you've held hands with or embraced throughout your life have you truly made physical contact with. This claim is not literary hyperbole or an abstract philosophical game. This is one of the most fundamental, most stringent physical truths about the workings of the universe. And when you truly grasp this reality, you begin to realize just how astonishing, how poetic, and in fact how empty what you call reality actually is. The majestic emptiness of the atom, substance within the void. For us, touch is not merely a physical interaction. It is the ultimate proof of trust, connection, and existence. If you can feel something, you believe unconditionally with faith that it is there. But quantum physics and the subatomic world radically shake this intuitive trust. When we descend to the smallest building block of matter, to the heart of the atom, we see that the world we thought was solid and unshakable is in fact a vast emptiness. At the center of an atom is a dense nucleus composed of protons and neutrons. This nucleus contains over 99.9% of the atom's mass. But in terms of size, the nucleus is almost non-existent. Orbiting around it are electrons. However, imagining electrons as small solid balls like planets around the sun is misleading. Modern physics tells us that electrons are not objects located at a specific point, but probability clouds. That is, we cannot know exactly where an electron is. We can only state where it is most likely to be. This uncertainty is not a measurement error, it is a fundamental property of the universe. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle tells us the more precisely we know a particle's position, the less we know its speed. Nature forbids certainty. These probability clouds cover a vast area around the nucleus. What we call the volume of an atom is in fact the boundary of these invisible probability clouds. But what fills this space is not solid matter. Almost the entirety of that vast area is empty space. A true absolute void, a nothingness containing no surface, untouchable. To visualize this in your mind, let's use science's classic yet startling metaphor. If we could expand a single atom to the size of a football stadium, the atom's nucleus would be as small as a single grain of rice sitting in the very center of the field. What about the rest of the atom? The electrons would be wandering like a diffuse mist or cloud in the topmost rows of the stands. And that vast stadium emptiness between the grain of rice and the stands, that is a zone of absolute nothingness, of silence and void, as desolate as interstellar space, as mysterious as quantum uncertainty. What remains of us? Humanity within a sugar cube. Now, let's take this thought even further. Your body, the paths you walk on, the skyscrapers reaching for the sky, mountain ranges, and boundless oceans. Everything in the universe is made of this hollow structure. You, me, and every object you see are in fact about 99.999999% empty space, a seemingly solid granite rock, the transparency of distilled water, the device in your hand, all are subject to the same rule. Everything is largely woven from nothingness. If we could eliminate the meaningless voids within all the atoms of the human body, if we could compress the electron clouds until they touched the nuclei, what would happen? We could fit the entire world's population, 8 billion people, with their immense egos, their deep loves, their wars, their art, their entire history, and all their memories into a single sugar cube. Yes, all of humanity possesses enough matter to fit into the volume of a single sugar cube, yet possesses an emptiness vast enough to pierce a mountain. Think of a neutron star. Such an object is an example of this compressed matter. A single teaspoon of neutron star material weighs millions of tons. So our solidity is in fact an illusion. This state of affairs overturns all our intuitions about the nature of matter. Since we are this empty, why don't we just pass through each other? Why don't we fall to the ground when we sit on a chair? It is precisely at this point that the curtain is drawn back on that magnificent illusion we call touch. Electromagnetic repulsion, the invisible boundary line. When you bring your finger close to a table, a wall, or the skin of a loved one, two solid objects never actually merge. What happens is this. The electrons in the outer layers of the atoms in your fingertip approach the electrons in the atoms of the opposing object. But one of nature's most fundamental laws kicks in. Like electric charges repel each other. Electrons are negatively charged. When two negative charges approach each other, an immense electromagnetic resistance forms between them. They have no desire to touch each other. As you press your hand onto the table, what you are actually doing is forcing this invisible electromagnetic barrier. No matter how much force you apply, that minuscule yet insurmountable distance between atoms is always maintained. This resistance is a manifestation of the electromagnetic force, one of the four fundamental forces of the universe. And this force is trillions of trillions of trillions of times stronger than gravity. Even gravity, which binds us to the earth, pales like a feeble shadow next to the electromagnetic force that keeps us apart. This repulsive force is so strong that it can bear your weight. When you sit in a chair, you aren't actually touching the chair. You are hovering at a microscopic distance in the air because the chair's electrons are repelling your electrons. Physical contact by the laws of the universe is forbidden. There is always a void in between. To imagine this more concretely, take two powerful magnets. When you bring the same poles, for example, two north poles together, you feel a resistance even though there's no physical obstacle. The magnets resist touching, gliding as if on an invisible cushion. The interaction between your finger and the phone screen is exactly like this magnetic effect. The sensation of touch is the perception of this invisible force by the nerves in your fingertips. And that cool, hard, smooth screen you feel right now, it is entirely an interpretation. In reality, there is only an electromagnetic barrier there. Your brain creates the rest. IV, the magnificent story created by the brain. So if we aren't physically touching anything, why do we feel such a distinct sensation of contact? Why do we perceive the coldness of marble, the softness of velvet, or the sharpness of a needle so realistically? This is where the most complex structure in the universe enters the stage, the human brain. Specialized nerve receptors in your fingertips detect the pressure and vibration resulting from the repulsive force of the electrons. These receptors have different functions. Meissner's corpuscles detect light touch, Pacinian corpuscles detect vibration, Merkel discs detect pressure, and Ruffini endings detect skin stretch. Each instantly converts the electromagnetic interaction into electrical signals. These signals travel along your neural pathways at speeds of approximately 70 to 100 meters per second, reaching your spinal cord and then your brain. Your brain, residing in that dark, silent space within your skull, receives these raw electrical data and interprets them with immense creativity. The brain translates the repulsion of electrons as hardness. It encodes the speed of molecular motion as temperature. It describes the vibration caused by surface irregularities as texture. Moreover, it integrates all this information with a map of meaning. The sensation that reaches your consciousness is no longer just a raw signal, but an interpreted, memory-linked, emotion-colored experience. That is, everything you feel outside is in fact a simulation constructed inside, between the neurons of your brain. That deep connection you feel when you touch someone is not the result of a physical union, but a product of the meaning your brain assigns to this interaction. Heat does not exist outside. It is your brain's response to molecular motion. Color does not exist outside. It is your brain's way of naming light wavelengths. And touch, it is a bridge your brain builds between voids. It is not reality itself, but a model of reality reconstructed within your brain. V, meaning within the void. Paradox and poetry. Here we face the deepest paradox of being human. We are lonely entities, physically unable to ever reach each other, composed of atoms that are 99% empty space and constantly repelling each other. On a universal scale, each of us is trapped within our own electromagnetic fortress, and yet we are the beings in the universe who most desire connection, who most need to form bonds. Think of a mother pressing her newborn baby to her chest. On a physical level, there is still an insurmountable void between mother and baby. The electrons are still repelling each other. No atom has mixed with another. But that touch allows the baby to cling to life. It unleashes oxytocin storms in the mother's brain. The neurological importance of the touch on the baby's skin when it first enters the world is so great that researchers have shown that the brain development of babies raised without touch is even impaired. Physics says there is no contact, while the human spirit says we are one, and the human body places that non-existent contact at the foundation of its existence. This is precisely where the miracle lies. The universe offers us only cold forces, empty atoms, and energy packets. But we as humans take this raw, meaningless data and build a world from it. We interpret the touch of one hand on another as consolation. We call a hand on someone's shoulder support. We see two people holding hands as loyalty. In a handshake, we read trust. In an embrace, acceptance. In a kiss, love. Yet in none of these is there a genuine physical union. All of them are the admirable fabrication by our consciousness of a union that the universe does not permit. Vi, a 13.8 billion year old longing viewed from this perspective, reaching out your hand to another, is one of the noblest acts in the universe. Consider this. In this journey that began with the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, carbon, oxygen, and iron atoms forged in the hearts of stars drifted through the void of space for billions of years. Giant stars shattered in supernova explosions, hurling these atoms into galaxies. Planets formed, oceans churned, the first spark of life ignited. Millions of years of evolutionary pressure transformed these atoms into increasingly complex structures, ultimately into consciousness. Now, these ancient atoms, despite the invisible forces repelling them, strive to reach each other across those immense voids, the effort of one consciousness to feel another. This is a will-challenging impossibility. While the laws of physics whisper, "You can never touch," the human heart says, "Keep trying." And this effort is the most beautiful rebellion of a being seeking meaning, breaking free from the blind, mechanical operation of the cosmos. We are not just beings existing in the universe, we are the universe's way of feeling itself. Your touch on a tree trunk is in fact one part of the universe being curious about another. And your brain's transformation of this interaction into a feeling is the most beautiful poem ever written into the silence of atoms. Conclusion. What is true touch? Perhaps true touch was never the physical event occurring at your fingertips. Perhaps true touch is that invisible effect one person's existence creates in the soul of another. Even though the physical world weave electromagnetic barriers to separate us, we, with our minds and emotions, leap over those barriers. A shared glance, a feeling understood without words, that familiar vibration in someone's voice. In none of these is there true physical contact, yet in all of them lies the deepest bond of humanity. Look again at the phone in your hand. Knowing that the sensation under your fingers is an illusion does not make it less valuable. On the contrary, it reminds you of the immense effort your brain exerts to create that sensation, of the delicate balance upon which the universe rests. And perhaps what is most valuable right now is to hold the hand of someone who knows this truth. Because in that moment, two consciousnesses are striving to unite their self-created realities. We don't truly touch anything, but we feel everything deeply. And perhaps humanity's greatest victory is this: to create a world of meaning from a universe surrounded by emptiness. Even though we can never physically touch each other, we continue to touch each other's lives. And this is a contact far stronger, far more real than the dance of atoms. In the cosmos's 13.8 billion year long story, your act of reaching your hand out to another, despite the stubborn repulsion of electrons, this is the universe's most elegant miracle.